Greetings, I'm John the Spirit, I'm improving all my setups, and welcome to Modded Factorio Supershorts. In order to get rid of all the crazy ash that my zinc system was creating, I switched it all with fluid mining drills and reduced the number of fluid mining drills I had in the process. Very nice. Now I have an excessive amount of coal in my inventory that I don't know what to do with, but oh well. That's what happens when you break a ton of belts involving coal. When in doubt though, I can just throw it unceremoniously at all the boilers and see if that gets rid of it all. It does! Amazing. No more raw coal in my inventory. In other news, I could reduce my boiler setup to 9 and retain the same amount of tin if I switch to the new tin processing. I have a task here to tell me to reduce it because I need to focus on something more important right now for intermetallics, copper, for which I have 9 automated screeners already. Screening of copper ore will produce copper grade 1 and copper grade 2. Copper grade 1 will go into these jaw crushers, making more copper grade 2 and also stone. I have taken stone out by a roundabout route to join into this gravel line to enter our big old storehouse here. Not very big after all though. I've turned things around a bit so that the result of these jaw crushers actually comes down. The stone comes up back into the gravel where I put it originally, but the copper is all going to these furnaces. Why? Because there's crushed coal here. With some silly spaghetti, I'll bring up the copper that comes out of these furnaces all the way to the copper line up here where it's meant to be. Now that I've removed the old enormous copper system that was here, I can bring it down over here. The full complement of copper is now heading down through the automated screeners. The copper grade 1s are being turned into tasty copper grade 2s, and copper grade 2 is being smelted in all 3 stone furnaces into copper. Amazing! Unfortunately, this does create a rather significant surplus of stone. Oops! Luckily, we've got a large surplus of gravel to deal with that, except as long as I haven't put plastic into here, we're not getting that surplus of gravel. Oh yay, this is finally filled up again. Okay, when in doubt, just throw 16 sacks of plastic bar in here and hope it will work out. It'll get us a good amount of antimony oxide, that's for sure. It's 1 to 1. This little number will make 3 copper per second, where the previous little number did not. With copper clogging up, there's only one place for it to go, a huge storehouse. This system will only use in total about 100 of the 180 copper I'm making per minute, so I'll get a good 80 per minute in this storehouse. Not a ton, but enough. Hopefully enough for a long, long time. The question quickly besetting us is what to do with all the stone, but we'll figure that out eventually. Well, I finished copper and have no idea what project to undertake next, so I guess that's it for today's episode. Just kidding. Our next big project that we really need to get to is rubber, which requires a ton of stuff and a reasonable amount of research that we actually have to be able to make before we get there. But if we want to be ready for rubber, we do need to set up a little more processing. For example, chromium processing does need to start. This will also need a reasonable amount of titanium, but I mean, like, look at this titanium setup. I don't think we're hurting right now. But I think by the time of this episode, I'm going to try and upgrade tin, switch all this titanium to fluid mining drill Mark IIs, set up a small intermetallic system that I can constantly feed with the immense amount of stuff I now have in terms of copper and aluminium. God, that's a lot of aluminium. So much. Wow. And I have more copper than I know what to do with at the moment, although it'll probably go away pretty quickly. But man, iron, why won't you keep up? The reason you won't keep up is because we use a lot of my power, and I don't want to do that right now, because clearly I am hurting for it. But wait, there's more. Full disclosure, it's been almost 2 weeks since I last recorded. You may be thinking, oh no, Jonathan, is this a harbinger for the end of your episodes? No, it's not. I just moved an entire state. And then when I got to that state, because I wasn't ready to, record things, I decided to play on this community PyMod server instead, and I learned lots of lessons and some helpful mods that I'm going to be taking into this playthrough. And yes, we're going to keep the same theme of this episode, we're making metals, I promise, but we've got more interesting things as well, like buses. I have learned the value of buses, can you believe it? Anyway, I'm adding a few mods like blueprint sandboxes, which lets you make blueprints in a sandbox where you can do creative things and, have infinite numbers of items and things like that. And it has nothing to do with your normal world, but you can access it from your normal world. Very clever, very useful. Factory search lets you search through your factory, as it says, for items that are the products or ingredients in different recipes. Also very useful. Picker dollies lets you move items around by pressing shift and right, up, down, or left. Very useful. Pipe visualizer tells you where all the pipes in your factory is going. This is going to be very useful when my factory becomes something that only has a single pipeline for everything. Teleporters, also very useful. You can make teleporters once we get batteries, which is late Pi science, but that'll be eventually, you know? Stop chasing belt items, which I think just, like, reduces lag. Anyway, thank you for coming to my TED Talk. I'm gonna sync these startup settings now. Bye! We've also got to negotiate a new update to PyMods, in which the cost of science has been changed for everything. Now, there's one thing I've been doing, which is trying to make perfect systems for everything, and I realized that's patently silly. In PyMods, you just, like, make one of all the buildings you need to get to a certain, you know, product, and then you expand over time, rather than trying to make a perfect system early on and being mad at yourself that it's, you know, I don't know, working too slowly, working too quickly or something, or, like, taking all of your resources or your power. So logistics science isn't some crazy enormous build I have to make, it's more that I have to slap down buildings to make logistics science and prepare to increase production based on whatever's bottlenecking logistics science. I'm nowhere near logistics science, I still need intermetallics. I already have that, but I need like more faster intermetallics. And so I am actually going to produce a bus. This is going to involve some revamping of my current circuit system because it basically just relies on itself, and I need to fix that and make it more of a whole factory thing that I can expand. But that's okay, I'll probably do that in this episode. Sorry about all this talking, by the way. Okay, welcome back to madness. Now automation science packs are double as expensive, and I continue to need double of them to keep up with PyScience. Isn't that exciting? But that is a problem that I can think about repairing once I have an actual bus of iron and copper and things like that. Observe that I sort of already have something of a bus going on right here. It's something that I'm going to widen out quite a bit as time continues. The problem is how my factory is built. I have it all bunched up on the left here, especially with all these ores being so sillily placed, and this terrible, enormous water, all these lakes that keep me from being able to just like move off to the left. Should I move my entire circuit system further to the right? I don't know. I think I'm going to build the bus downward, starting from, well, I mean, there's water over there, there's water everywhere, there's so much water, but I think that probably the best place to build my bus, considering the water that I'm eventually going to be hitting, is directly down the middle here, I think, where you can see these two waters eventually coming to bite us in the ass. However, to make such a bus, I need a lot of belts, and to make a lot of belts, I need a lot of iron. So I think I am going to waste some of my power, and by waste some of my power, use it wisely, on having tons of iron. Ooh. Okay, gotta get rid of some ash. Okay, so according to YAFC, I can make 75 iron per minute using either this hot iron plate recipe that involves me you doing water electrolysis, or by just jaw crushing some processed iron ore and directly smelting it. But it turns out it's slightly cheaper in terms of power to get my iron from the hot air and water electrolysis method. I was hoping that the hydrogen I got from the oxygen production would be enough to power my base a little bit, but it turns out just throwing it in an oil boiler really only gets me 190 kilowatts, which is minuscule, useless. Jaw crushers will turn iron ore into processed iron ore. For now, I'm just going to slap down one and use 2 electric mining drills to supply it. Not too much, but it'll be enough. The meat of this system is the basic oxygen furnace here, which uses, again, a large amount of fuel, just like we're using down in, I almost forgot that we were doing this, down in antimony, so I'm going to take some of that crushed coal. Point is, we are going to use this processed iron ore to make molten iron just as soon as I actually research it. Oops, I probably forgot that I needed to do that. While I wait, I guess I'll just build my BOFs. And 2 electrolyzers. I need the crushed coal to feed up to these basic oxygen furnaces. The one problem is that I have this coal system relying on the running of the aluminium system, which is, I realized, very silly. I should have a standalone coal system which supplies all these 3 items, crushed coal, and coal dust to the rest of my factory and voids whatever is in excess. But clearly I don't have that right now, so I am going to... God, my factory is a mess. I am a mess. Also, sort of forgot that I have borax all the way over here. I know, I'll just belt it up, like... I'm so silly. In good news, the length of underground belts has been increased to 8. Very nice. Normal inserters now require duralumin, by the way, which is quite annoying, but it's just what I have to deal with. Besides, I have lots of aluminium now. What am I doing not making tons of duralumin? Come on. Aren't these electrolyzers, which use 10.33 megawatts each, beautiful? And any forms of power other than geothermal are frighteningly far away and depend on such things as melamine, which requires a WOGS, which requires so much stuff, so many things. I desperately need to find more geothermal plants, water, or just like I don't know, plop them down using the editor. I don't really want to do that, but I might if I continue to be unable to find them, because coal power is too far away for me to continue slapping down enormous coal factories until I get that, better form of power. Now, there is one possibility if I get oil burning. I think I can slap a derrick on this bitumen seep, and once I clear out the bitumen, I'll get whatever's underneath it. Okay, I'm going into the blueprint sandbox and slapping down a bitumen seep. Okay, actually, in this sandbox mode, I can't really access anything that I haven't researched yet, which makes sense, to be fair. So I need to wait a bit before I can start figuring out how well this works. Too bad. For now, I guess I'm just going to get ready to slap down another geothermal water thing right here, and hopefully it will be enough power to carry me through, but for now, let me just do my iron. I also happen to forget that for the casting unit, I need 8 intermetallics, which are going to require this Phoenix alloy, and of course vitrolloy. I'm placing down a radar so I can see this place from far away. I should probably do the same thing over my factory, where I can now see absolutely nothing. But the reason I'm up here is to see what I need to replicate so that I can make another geothermal build while I wait for, my intermetallics and stuff, because god do I need this. The sheer amount of simple circuit boards I have, I'm grabbing these so I can craft the geothermal stuff, is an indication of the flaw in my thinking. I thought I needed tons of circuit machines, but really I just needed one. I just needed enough to satisfy it a little bit and have enough for now. But instead I built this enormous system that I can't really extract any extra resources from for fear that the entire thing will break and die. So this whole thing needs to go, eventually. It's going to be revamped slowly for the bus, which feels daunting, but I think I can manage it, eventually. Besides, I have so many circuits, I'm not going to need to worry about it for at least a bit. Okay, I just blueprinted the geothermal plant to put everything down here, and I think it's pretty good. I think everything's down. All I need to do is hook it up the very, very long way back to the base. Exciting. Okay, all the power is hooked up and my geothermal plants are running, so now I have a little bit of extra power to buffer me until I reach the oil derrick research, which is a little bit away. As my research drives ever down, I'm just going to plop a bunch of automation science packs into all 4 of these machines, distribute half that number of PyScience packs, and then start researching until I get to the point I need. I wish I had the research queue. I need to figure out how to press a button or whatever to let me have it. We got a good amount of Phoenix. Now for the vitrolloy, which thankfully goes so much faster than the Phoenix. I really only need 1 smelter of this later on, I think. I've got these inserters dumping processed iron and borax into the basic oxygen furnace to make my molten iron, and I've got my electrolyzers, which just need water supplied to them. Okay, we got our electrolyzers running, we've got coal running into them, and now we got molten iron. All we need is the casting unit. In goes the Phoenix and the vitrolloy to make 1 intermetallics each. Really bad, but eventually I'll have these constantly supplied. I've moved my casting unit to the right using pick or dolly. See how I can move it left and right? Isn't that so fun? Anyway, just acting aside, I needed access to the hot air so I can bring it onto my iron. Okay, we've got everything we need inside the iron plate crafter. All I need to do is give it some power, and boom, shkadoom, I'll have tons and tons of iron. And by tons, I mean about 150 per minute, and not really even that. Yay! And if you're wondering where all this iron came from, I mean, mostly it came from me, but it is coming. It is coming. Alright, automation 2 is done, which gets me closer to drilling fluid. Just need to do a couple more researches, but in the next episode, that is when we're going to be able to place our oil derrick on our bitumen seep and see what happens. For now, that's it for today's strangely cut episode. It may be in the next episode or maybe in the middle, but I am going to start I'm going to start bussing things instead of pretending that they should all go into a neat, perfect system, which does not work. Except maybe in the case of this coal plant where everything is perfectly dedicated to power. For now, that's it for today's episode. As always, if you have any feedback, I'd love to hear it. I hope you enjoyed!